love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up! It's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out, maybe it's the chemistry. It's time to break up so I can make a better me. Better believe in your mind, cause it's everything. You can mold, shape, find almost anything. All it takes is some time and some clarity to find your identity. It's mind over everything. And when I feel like this, I'm immortal. 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 Don't be scared. Just give me up. Don't be scared. I'm so gone, no I'm never turning back. I won't stop, I'ma fight until there's nothing left. It's so on, you're gonna be hurting bad. Cause I've been to hell and back. You don't wanna make me mad. I stay strong, you will never see me crack. And if you get in my way, you're gonna feel the wrath. Gotta say it to my face while he's looking back. Mirror breaks after math. When I hate, I attack. And when I feel like this, I'm immortal. 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 Don't be scared. Just give me up. Don't be scared.
Welcome to Daikaiju Network Podcast. I am your co-host, Kent, and with me is your other co-host,
Jason. How's it going, everyone?
Here we are. We are starting a new series where we are going to cover two series of tokusatsu TV shows. The first one up to plate is the one that you see on Jason's shirt there. Kamen Rider. All right. And then 2 weeks from now, we're going to be doing Spectre-Man. So everything is going to change every other week. And if you happen to miss our show from a couple of weeks ago, we had said that it's very likely that every once in a while, throughout the course of us covering these two shows, we will probably take a break. That may include covering certain movies, that may include commentaries, what have you. None of that's been decided yet because we got a long ways to go. Kamen Rider's 90 plus episodes, and Spectre-Man, what'd you say? How many episodes?
I think it was around 60 episodes, I believe.
That's a lot. Okay,
Yeah.
We're going to be at this for a long time. Okay, so I hope you guys are comfortable and you're ready for the next 10 years for us to cover these two shows. I'm exaggerating there. But my
I hope
point
you are.
is that this is going to take a while for us to cover these two shows. But So what we're gonna do today, I just want to give you a quick rundown as far as what to expect this episode. Um, Jason will go through some housekeeping here in a moment, but I want to personally go through Pacific Rim: The Black. I recently finished the second season. I want to give my thoughts on the second season and the series overall, and then also here the other day I watched the 2017 Power Rangers movie. I want to give my quick thoughts on that. The reason why I'm covering that is because of the fact that obviously the original Super Sentai slash Power Rangers series originated in Japan and came out in the 1980s. I thought, look, that's Japanese related. It's very similar to what we're covering here. I just want to give my quick thoughts on that, and then we'll dive into the first 3 episodes of Kamen Rider. So, Jason, any housekeeping?
Yeah, the one thing I just want to reiterate is that it seems like your audio has been now starting to be a bit choppy on my end from what I just heard there. But the one thing I just want to say is to my other volume has been wanting to go on its own for whatever reason.
Yeah, your lips aren't
But
matching your words here.
but
Interesting.
anyways, for that, for whatever it is,
Technology
just
people.
want to say that you can find everything Daikaiju Network in one place by going to our link tree page right there with the URL link tr.ee/Daikaiju Network. And we're on a few video platforms, YouTube and Twitch, uh, we stream live, and then as well as Rumble, which maybe several hours or a day later, the latest episodes when we stream live will automatically go to there. And then we got our audio platforms as far as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and as well as TuneIn. And make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you see a red button down there, hit that subscribe button. Like our videos, and as well as hit that notification bell icon. And if you want to archives, blogs, everything that we do, you can go to our official website over at daikaijunetwork.com.
So my lips aren't syncing because at least from my end, your lips are syncing up with what you're saying.
Well, I can see yours synced up now.
Okay, because I was gonna say, like, again, my internet connect, it's not 100% at least according to my end, but it's still better than what it was earlier when we were pre-gaming this whole thing. So,
Mm-hmm.
all right, are you ready for me to dive into the 2 things I wish to cover? All
Yep.
right. So here we go. Pacific Rim: The Black. A couple days ago, I finished through the second season of The Black. Now, if you want to get my overall thoughts of season 1, just go through our archives, iTunes, YouTube, wherever, and go to the Daikaiju Fest from last year, 2021. And during that Daikaiju Fest, I did cover Pacific Rim: The Black, the first season there. You'll get my thoughts on that. What I want to cover here is the second season and just my overall thoughts on the series as a whole. I'm going to try and not spoil things for you, but just in case, if you have not seen season 2 and don't want to be spoiled, I would suggest you fast forward this section just in case I accidentally happen to spoil something here for you. So my thoughts on season 2 is that it is a very emotional season. There's if I remember correctly, 7 episodes.
Hold
The second season here.
Hold that thought, because your audio is getting really choppy now.
Really?
Yes.
Are you serious?
I am serious.
Why? I mean, my internet connection is saying it's like 3 out of 4. Really?
Yep.
Oh my god. I hate technology. I have an idea, but I don't want to do it for 2 shows in a row. What about now?
I think so.
Is it good?
I believe so.
You think so?
Well, the audio is kind of off sync there.
And in the words of Bill O'Reilly, fuck it, we're going live. I'm just gonna go, and then I want us to test something later. So unless it gets really, really bad, let me know. Like really bad, to where like large
It's starting
sections
to
are
get a
being cut
little
off
bit choppy.
for what have you. Um, so the second season consists of about 7 episodes and is very emotional. It is an incredible series overall. If you are a fan of the Pacific Rim franchise, this franchise, in many respects, sort of, I believe, captures the awesomeness of those two films, those live action films. But on top of that, it adds another layer to it, meaning that I think we get more of a human story through this anime series than we do through the live action films. We get it through our two main characters, a brother and a sister, and they're on a quest to look for their parents who end up going missing at the very beginning of the series. And I'm going to say this too. If you are someone who is looking for a ton of kaiju action in this series, you really are not going to get that. You will get elements of that in bursts, but not too often. And you will get a couple of really good kaiju combats throughout the course of the series, but they are spread out. With that being said, I think there are definitely some people who will be disappointed by the series because there aren't more kaiju. There aren't more kaiju fights or whatever. This series is not necessarily about what those initial movies were about, which was robots fighting kaiju. This is more about survival, bonding, and sort of a rescue mission that ends up turning into an interesting combat story that involves more human elements than those two live action movies. And I love that aspect because I think the writing for this series is phenomenal. I was very much invested in the human characters, their stories, their journey, and what they end up going through over the course of these, what, total of 19 or so episodes. And I think this is very much worth checking out. Not just if you're a Pacific Rim fan, but if you enjoy good storytelling. This series to me is phenomenal. I went in thinking, okay, this is going to be somewhat of a carbon copy of what we saw with the two live action movies. I quickly realized that is not what we were getting, but at the same time, I forgot about that. And I didn't care because the writing was so great. I had totally forgotten about the fact that this was connected to two live action movies and that this was supposed to be about robots punching monsters in the face. This is a phenomenal series, folks. If you have not seen this series or continued with season 2 for whatever reason, you need to watch this series. My hope is that Netflix, God knows their track record is awful in terms of releasing this stuff onto physical media. I'm hoping we see this at some point for home video release. But this is a phenomenal series. It is incredibly well written. I was welling up at certain points in the second half of this story. It throws you a couple curveballs here and there. It's exciting. It's just well written. It is one of the better kaiju stories I have seen in a while. And as everyone knows who has paid attention to this podcast for a while, knows I've said that the Godzilla anime trilogy, in my opinion, is one, if not potentially the best written Godzilla story thus far. And the animation for Pacific Rim: The Black is very similar to what you get with that anime trilogy. Some people don't like it, whatever. What I'm telling you is if you don't like it, look past that. Okay? It's not that bad. Look at the writing, look at the substance. I still think Godzilla, the anime trilogy, is phenomenal. And in many ways, I think Pacific Rim: The Black mirrors that trilogy in terms of the quality of writing, even though it's done by totally separate groups of people.
Mm-hmm.
And Pacific Rim: The Black is well worth your time. It really is. You may be disappointed at the fact that there's not a ton of kaiju action in it or whatever, but in a way, that's not the point. And I think you will quickly see why within the first couple episodes of this series. I think it is well worth your time. If you love good storytelling, this is the series to watch. Okay. Pacific Rim: The Black as a whole, 10 out of 10, high recommend from me. I mean, it is an incredible series. I think everyone listening to this podcast needs to see it. It is an incredible series. Now, moving on to the 2017 Power Rangers. I finally saw it the other day. The reason why it
Took
took
you
me so
long
long
enough.
I was very apprehensive because here's the deal. Look, I loved the Power Rangers as a kid growing up, the show. But the thing is that as I got older, I grew out of it, and I saw some clips and stuff of some episodes. I even tried revisiting it while watching Netflix here 8 years ago. And it was hard for me to watch because it very much was a product of not just the 90s, but a product for a younger audience as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I just was sort of afraid it was going to hit that nerve where I was going to be like, oh God, like here we go. Here's some corniness or cliches or whatever. But then when I watched it here the other night, I was pleasantly surprised as to how different it was. There are elements of Power Rangers that I think are worthy of celebration. I like quite a few of the changes that they made to the characters, the story, etc., within the 2017 film. I, but there are some things about it that I don't care for. The fact that all 5 Rangers are sort of juvenile delinquents, not only find that hard to believe because when you look at Billy, he's just a nerd, etc. Why is he in detention all the time? Why is he getting that? Makes no sense to me. I think having all 5 of them as delinquents is not that believable. I think it's very inconsistent. I think you could have richer storytelling if you have maybe a few of them that are delinquents, a few that are like good to great students, etc. Involved, and you get those different personality traits coming into conflict, etc. I think it creates for a better story. I like how the story of Zordon is told. I enjoy sort of the general journey that these teens have to go through to become Rangers. Um, with that being said, though, here's the biggest gripe I have about the movie, and I think this is pretty much a fatal flaw of this film. It takes too damn long for shit to happen. Okay, it's about the hour and a half mark when we see all 5 teens turn into Power Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
And then the final 20 minutes is their battle with Rita Repulsa, an interesting version of Goldar, and all of that. The fight, as a result, of course, is short because a lot of people will say, well, it's a 2-hour movie. Well, you have to understand that about 15 or so minutes of that is credits. Okay. So you have about 20 minutes there after all 5 of them turn into Rangers and they go into this final conflict. The final conflict was interesting, but way too short. The problem with this film is not just the meandering, but the fact that the writers believed that you needed to have this extra long process to show their journey, to show them growing into becoming individuals worthy of wearing the Power Rangers suits. And that should have been cut in half. all 5 of them should have been in Rangers uniforms by, at the very latest, the hour mark. Okay. And look, this would have been cliche, but go with the typical hero origin formula where the 45-hour-minute mark, you have them all in uniform and they fight some sort of minor villain or
Hmm.
something like that. And then maybe you grow into that final combat. The way things are put together with this particular story does not work. I actually inadvertently found myself zoning out, and I was doing other things for quite a while in the middle of the film until they ended up morphing all 5 of them into Rangers. So, um, with that being said, Power Rangers 2017, loved a lot of ideas. Some of it I didn't care for. Biggest flaw, took way too damn long for character development to get them into the Ranger suit and to do all that. Um, if they had cut things down and really got to the point sooner, this could have been a very fantastic film. With that being said, um, buy, rent, or pass, that's hard. I'm going to say pass. I don't, despite the fact that I think there's a lot of stuff here to like, I don't think the movie is a good investment of your time, considering how it decides to use that time. So, if you wish to check it out, do, but be prepared for the fact that you're going to be sitting there for a good long time without a ton of stuff happening. And in a way, that's not true. But if you're looking for the Ranger stuff to happen sooner, you're going to be disappointed. And you need to be prepared to wait 90 minutes for that to happen. To me, that's unacceptable. And I'm surprised that Lionsgate was okay with that and didn't say, look, cut some of this stuff out. We got to get to this stuff sooner. Um, like I said, overall, I liked a lot of it, but because of its meandering, I cannot recommend it, sadly. And judging by the fact that it's been 5 years, I don't think we're going to get a sequel or anything like that.
Yeah, that's not going to happen from what I've read. That
Yeah.
there was potentially going to be a they're going to have 5 more films to follow up with it, but with how it performed and everything, that just didn't quite work out. And was it Saban sold off the Power Rangers property, I think, to Hasbro's, I think, from what I last read. So,
That's one of the last people you want to sell your product to is a toy company that will produce high quality collectibles but very shitty general toys. I
but
mean,
the
seriously,
one
take a look at their Jurassic World line from 2015. It's horrendous.
the one
So,
thing
like,
that I do like from the 2017 Power Rangers is the soundtrack
it is
to the
good.
film.
Yeah,
It's
I will say
really
that.
good by Brian Tyler, which I'm probably
Brian
guessing.
Tyler is always good.
Yeah, I'm guessing some of you, a handful of you, probably know the name. That he's done several notable works, including a lot of the movies from the Marvel Cinematic Universe and everything. So yeah, what he did there for that movie was pretty good.
Yeah. It just breaks my heart because I was pleasantly surprised with this film. I thought there was a lot of potential here given what they had, but then they squandered that with thinking, oh, we need to like really waste everyone's time to get them into the Ranger suit and then have a final battle that is very pedestrian. Um, that breaks my heart. And it also makes me angry because again, that's like an hour 50 minutes or so that I'm not going to get back.
Hmm.
And I'm angry, and at the same time I am just saddened because what they had here, if they had gotten to the point sooner, they could have had a golden film, and they probably would have made enough money to, yeah, continue that series that they had in mind. But
Hmm.
that's their own fault, And I hate to say that, but it's true. And there's a lot to like here, but there's a lot to not like as well. And that breaks my heart. So, yeah, to me, it's a pass on the 2017 Power Rangers movie. So,
Yeah, and then as far as the Pacific Rim Black one, it'd be nice whenever that comes out onto DVD. Probably, I guess, in like that
don't.
Malaysian thing, where we've got the Godzilla anime
Yeah,
and
but
then
those were
the
done by
Ultimate.
Toho. This is not done by Toho or anyone else. This is done
Yeah.
by Legendary. I know Legendary is mainly a Chinese property, but at the same time, they're kind of based also in the US. So Netflix, I love Netflix for many different reasons. I watched Red Notice last night. Very good movie if you haven't checked it out yet.
Oh, I'm not going to subscribe to Netflix
It's got
anytime
Dwayne
soon.
Johnson, Gal Gadot, and Ryan Reynolds. It's not only funny, but fun to watch. Um, But Netflix is a bitch when it comes to trying to release some stuff. Yeah, they release stuff like Orange is the New Black, some of their more popular original shows and content. The thing is that when it comes to some of this other stuff, they're terrible. Like the She-Ra series, they released the first 3 seasons out of 5 on the DVD, and it doesn't look like they're going to release the final 2 seasons on the DVD. Recently, they just released the first 3 seasons of Camp Cretaceous on the DVD, and it probably is unlikely that they will also release the final 2 seasons of Camp Cretaceous on DVD for that series as well. So, Netflix, get your fucking act together. Many of us are tired of this bullshit. Okay? Commit. You say you want to ring on that, but you're not willing to commit. Okay? Figure this shit out. Okay? Like, I'm one of millions of people that is sick of this bullshit that you guys pull, okay? And you guys want to know why you're losing subscribers, it's because of bullshit like this, okay? If you want to go the full distance, go the full distance. Otherwise, cut the shit.
I think there's probably other reasons for
Yeah, well, fuck their
subscriptions.
reasons. They're
So
not good reasons whatsoever. I'm sorry. Look at what
I
you
think they're
got me
pretty good
going here on
reasons.
Netflix, so I'm
But
sick of Netflix in terms of their home video release stuff.
but anyways, should we move on to the meat and potatoes of our discussion for this episode?
Go ahead, bring us in.
So we're gonna be kicking off this time with the first 3 episodes of the original Kamen Rider, and the first episode here, I'm just gonna kind of go off on the original title, titled "The Eerie Spider-Man."
You're gonna do this again? Oh my gosh.
Yes.
I thought, no, but like we got the same DVDs. I'm like, there's no way he's gonna do it. So I wasn't even prepared for this. Otherwise known
Well,
on the DVD set called The Mysterious Spider-Man.
well, it was that way on mine, but it, the title is much different. Why is the damn volume want to keep going up and down on my end?
It does
But
keep
anyways,
going up and down, yeah.
I saw on my on Wikipedia that it had a different title, so I was like, you know what? I know it's gonna be totally different. I know Ken's gonna be going off on the DVD release title version of it, so I was like, I'll just go with whatever is on.
You need to get
on
off
here,
of
so.
that. Like, seriously, that causes too many problems here. This is giving me flashbacks to Ultra 7, and that's not a good thing. Because you know how I feel about that. So, let's just go ahead and talk about this thing. And then I've got, like a number of things written up here as far as final thoughts and a letter grade for each episode, like I did with that 7 Ultra show here from earlier in the year. So, here we are. We're jump starting. Takeshi Hongo is a motorcycle racer. He also works at, I want to try to see if I can pronounce it properly, Jonan University, I think is how it's pronounced. He's in the biochemistry department. Holy mackerel. And his motorcycle racing coach Tachibana, who is played by the same actor, and I don't remember the actor's name, who plays the captain in Ultraman, the original Ultraman series. He's also in Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. He's also in Godzilla vs. Mothra. He's usually kind of the sidekick to some of the big government officials in those two movies that I just mentioned here. But what ends up happening is in this first episode, Takeshi Hongo is kind of challenged in a roundabout way by these random motorcyclists as he's trying to time himself for a race. And he ends up getting taken hostage by the Shocker organization. The Shocker organization, as we are told via exposition, is an evil organization that is, of course, as you all beat me to the punch on, trying to take over the world. And so what they end up doing is they kidnap a bunch of people, they put them under their spell. Some of them they use for minor ticky-tack, menial labor type things. Others they select. It's not very clear exactly who gets selected for what they call the demon role, which is sort of what I would call the general's role. Think of some of you are going to laugh at this, but I can't think of any other example off the top of my head at the moment. Think of Mortal Kombat Annihilation, right? You have Shao Kahn at the top there, right? And then you have what are called his generals, Sindel, Ermac, Mutaro, etc. Okay, and then you have all these just random soldiers underneath them. These demons for Shocker are guys like the Spider-Man. In the next episode that we're going to cover after discussing this one, it's going to be no, don't be thinking about it. Think about something else. It's Batman. Not the Batman, but Batman. And then after that, Scorpion Man, so on and so forth, as we're going to march through 90 some odd episodes over the next decade here. So think of them as generals, but the show calls them demons. Call them what you want, but I call them generals. I'm going to use demons and generals interchangeably. So the Spider-Man, not Tobey Maguire, not Andrew Garfield, not
Nope,
who's
none
the
of them.
current dude? Who's the current dude playing? What's the actor's name? I forget his name.
Oh,
Tom Holland.
yeah.
Not Tom Holland. Not those guys. But yeah, what ends up happening is that Hongo ends up getting kidnapped by Shocker. He's been unconscious for a week. He ends up getting turned into a cyborg, but he ends up escaping. And his mind is not totally altered because individuals who end up getting captured by Shocker and turned into these generals of Shocker end up working for them and being controlled by an unseen leader. We have yet to see that. I'm just letting you know in these first 3 episodes, we're not going to see him. And I'm just letting you know now, my theory is, considering I've seen shows like Red Baron, we're probably not going to see him for an awfully long time.
Yeah, I think from
let's be patient there.
Yeah, according to some of the info that I've been seeing, I think we won't be able to see the leader. I think right in the middle of the show.
So you're talking like 45 episodes roughly into the series.
Yeah, somewhere around
give
there,
or take.
yeah.
Give or take. And so he ends up escaping because this doctor, and I forget, it starts with an M, Mitokara. I forget it's a longer name and more awkward than what I'm used
Professor
to seeing.
Midori Kawa.
Midori Kawa, he ends up coming in. Midori Kawa was a former colleague of his at the university that he's with. He tells Hongo, you got to escape. Hongo does escape before his mind becomes altered to where he's under the complete control of the Shocker organization. And eventually Mirokawa gets caught by the Spider-Man. This happens as a result when Hongo and Mirokawa start talking about Mirokawa's involvement with the Shock organization, the fact that he was kidnapped and forced to work for them, and worked on Hongo, transforming him into Kamen Rider, and he ends up getting killed by Spider-Man in very gruesome ways. One of the things that I love about this series so far in the first 3 episodes is we get some interesting horror slash body horror moments in this series. Gotta love 1970s Japanese tokusatsu because they are not afraid to make kids disturbed. So,
Yeah, just wait till the next episode after this.
yeah, in fact, I wrote it down. I'm glad you thought of that. And then also the one after that, you could argue that the one after that also has a few moments. Um, but what ends up happening when Spider-Man uses his stinger to kill people, kind of the final blow, it's sort of like a fatality before actually fighting someone, using a Mortal Kombat reference again. Um, what ends up happening is that these people kind of disintegrate into a foamy mixture and just kind of dissolve. And the Mitokawa's daughter, what's her name again? I forgot.
Ruriko.
Roriku. Um, she believes Hongo is responsible for his death because she kind of sees in on him as far as them arguing right before Spider-Man, again, not Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, Tom Holland, ends up giving him the coup de grace and ends his life. So she thinks Hongo, in some fashion, killed him. And Hongo's trying to convince her, no, I didn't kill him. It was Spider-Man, etc. This ultimately ends up into a final confrontation between Kamen Rider, Spider-Man's henchman, and then Kamen Rider v Spider-Man himself. And I'm still confused on this. I'm not entirely sure how Spider-Man ends up getting killed here. It just kind of is like he gets flipped or something like that, and then he himself dissolves. Then we get some closing exposition remarks from the episode narrator saying that Hongo carries his burden with him and that he's going to continue on as Kamen Rider trying to stop Shocker from taking over the world.
Yeah, I think was it Kamen Rider? I think he did one of his special moves, I believe, because
I
I know
must have missed it, yeah.
because they were battling kind of along this edge of this quarry, so to speak, and then I think he does one of his special moves, and then I believe he falls down one of the cliffs. I think, because I know that they were climbing up one of the walls or something at one point for the final bout, and then
Yeah, but that's not
all
what ends
that.
up killing Spider-Man. Like, there was something that Kamen Rider did. I thought maybe he just got the crap kicked out of him enough that he just, like, that's what I thought. That's what it came off to me as.
Yeah, even though I watched this, relatively maybe about a little over 12 or so hours ago, I would think that I would remember, but
Thanks a lot, Jason. You're a lot of help. Might as well end this right now. I mean,
well, same goes to you. So,
I watched this over 48 hours ago. So,
but yeah,
yeah, so let's just kind of talk about it. I mean, and then we'll kind of give some closing thoughts. I want to give a letter grade. I don't know if you want to do the same, but
yeah. Were you gonna go ahead?
no, you go ahead. I mean,
Oh, yeah. As far as what the heck, I was just reading on one of my lists and it says Bobby Shocker. But yeah, as far as the Shocker, I know I was reading up some information about this. Shocker is actually a acronym that spells out Sacred Hegemony of Cycle Kindred Evolutional Realm. And apparently, like kind of their backstory is that some of the founders had some ties to the Nazi Party.
no, I believe it.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I want to say this right now, okay? Now that you bring it up before I forget. Because starting I think it's with the next episode. We see an intercom on this eagle. I almost wrote it in my notes, but I didn't because I didn't want to try to like go there because I wasn't entirely sure. That eagle in which the intercom is through reminded me so much of the Nazi eagle that you would sometimes see over their swastika. But I was
Mhm.
like, no, like that can't be exact. But then in episode 3, they do bring up the fact that they use techniques from the Nazis to do skin grafting and to change these people into these creatures. But like I said, I didn't exactly want to go there because I wasn't sure if that's where this organization or how this was written. I didn't want to quite go there in case it wasn't. But then now that you bring it up, I'm like, that makes perfect sense because that eagle very much reminded me of the eagle you sometimes see over the swastika.
Mhm. Yeah. But other than that, when it comes to um, Kamen Rider, I know I've seen uh, actually the first 2 episodes. I think maybe a little over a year or so ago from the official Toei Tokusatsu channel on YouTube. Because when I saw those, it's like, I'll sort of check it out. And sort of my first initial thoughts is that I think it's something pretty good that we could at least cover. And I know that we've sort of discussed back and forth as far as talking about Kamen Rider one of these days, and I know you've had some mixed feelings
No, I
about it.
haven't. No, I haven't. I mean, I remember seeing, I think, these first 2 episodes at G Fest periodically over the years we were attending. And I remember telling you, I think, I don't know how many months ago, 4 or 5 months ago, however long ago it was, I was like, I really want them to release the original Kamen Rider onto DVD or Blu-ray. And you were saying, well, they were releasing, not Ultraman, Kamen Rider Zero, or they were releasing something here relatively soon. And I said, why can't we get the original Kamen Rider? Because from the 2 episodes that I've seen periodically at previous G Fest, I enjoyed it. So, yeah, I've always wanted to cover this
But
because
um, as far as kind of the whole um, final editing process when it came to these first 3 episodes, um, what are your sort of initial thoughts?
on the editing,
Yeah, because it seems like to me like some of it just uh kind of gets choppy here and there, and like uh,
really?
like before on the first episode, like before the break call sign, uh, that Kamen Rider was facing Spider-Man or some of his henchmen, kind of in
Uh-huh.
that field there, and then that break sign, and then the next scene is that you see Spider-Man uh, in his in the Shocker base, uh, talking with the leader or something there, and it just seems like it's just out of nowhere. Like,
Well, again, these shows, as I've read brief snippets of it, this goes back to when we were covering Ultra 7. Just like a lot of the tokusatsu movies of the same time and even a little bit before, they were given a very short period of time. I think they were saying like they only even had a week to put some of the Ultraman episodes together, and I would assume even at Toei it was a similar production schedule. So, look, mistakes are going to be made. And, no series is perfect. Let me just say this. At least right now, basing off of what I've seen from the first 3 episodes of Kamen Rider, is this thing absolutely fucking nuts? It is. And guess what? I love it for that. Because anyone who paid attention to our Ultra 7 retrospective earlier in the year knows that the biggest problem I had with that series was the fact that it took itself way too seriously. It tried to be melodramatic. It did not embrace its absurdity. And that was the problem it had. It tried to be something that I thought was very unsuccessful at, and the result was that 90% of the time it failed. That characterizations were terrible, stories were bland and just uninteresting. There were maybe, I think, a total of 11 episodes I gave like a B or so grade to. Okay. Ultra 7 was an incredible disappointment of a series. Common Rider, yeah, it still adds some elements of melodrama, but guess what? That kind of happens in something like this. But the difference between something like Common Rider so far and Ultra 7 is the fact that Common Rider knows it is absolutely knucking futz. And it goes with that. Camera angles where they tilt the camera upside down, or they do these weird shots where it's like stop motion animation in some cases as well. This series knows that it's absurd, but it's still got to have some melodrama to try to create some semblance of stakes in it, but it embraces that absurdity. I mean, take a look. Spider-Man, Batman, Scorpion Man. I mean, the names and the designs of the villains are absurd. The fact that you got people being grafted into these insects and animals. The fact too that you have these kind of like the villains themselves are just goofy, bombastic, hyperbolic villains that have these weird, exaggerated hand motions when they're out and about, like trying to hunt either victims or Common Rider. This series knows what it is, and it embraces that. And
Mhm.
it's fun as a result of that. It's saying, look, we have to do some melodrama to try to create stakes here, but at the same time, we understand that what we're doing here is wackadoo, and we're going to embrace that. This is a show that is made for kind of a younger audience to some extent. We're going to embrace that, and we're not going to shy away from it. It almost to me seemed like Subaraya was sort of ashamed at the fact that the original Ultraman embraced this absurdity, which made it so fun. And so they tried to go more mature with its storytelling most of the time. And as a result, in my opinion, it fell flat on its face. Despite the fact that, yeah, the special effects for that series were incredible, everything else about it sucked.
Mhm.
I mean, you can have the greatest effects in the world, but if your substance isn't all that entertaining, you failed. And as I said when we closed out that series, Ultra 7 is a failure of a series. It's not good, in my opinion. It's not fun to watch, despite the fact that, yeah, its miniatures and other effects work are superior to Ultraman in every other way. Kamen Rider, which came a few years after Ultra 7 here, its effects are not as good as Ultra 7, but guess what? It's more fun to watch because it knows what it is and it embraces it.
Yeah, and for those that haven't seen Spider-Man for Kamen Rider, that's what he looks like
Yeah.
right there. So zoom up a little bit. There you go. That's what he looks like.
It's really fun. I mean, it is a fun series so far, just based off of 3 episodes.
Hmm. Yeah. So as far as the backstory to Kamen Rider, what do you think of the backstory of Kamen Rider and how he came to be, as far as getting the strength and then so on and so forth?
If I were to base it off of just episode 1, I would say it's interesting but incomplete. But if you were to have me include episode 2, I would say it's very good. Because what ends up happening is there's a hole in the story with episode 1 in that it doesn't really explain to you why he's not under the control of Shocker Organization. Because you have one of the doctors who says, every time we turn someone into these cyborgs or what have you, They're under our control. And I, throughout the rest of the episode, was wondering, well, why isn't Kamen Rider under their spell? It's not spelled out. They never said anything about a mind control deal or anything like that. It's only until the early parts of episode 2 does the mind control thing come up, and the fact that because he escaped before they completely finished his mind alteration, then all of a sudden it made sense. Is it ridiculous in the fact that it's an afterthought? Yes. Look, I mean, that's not great storytelling. I will admit that right here. But again, I'm having way too much fun with this series so far to where I'm like, whatever, I'm willing to let it go. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting though, because of the fact that at least up to this point, because I've watched a couple of Ultraman series, we've watched Iron King, I've seen Red Baron, um, I've seen part of the original Super Sentai. I think as far as like general tokusatsu, at least off the top of my head, I think that's all I've seen thus far. I'm sure there could be another series or two in there that I just can't think of right now. This is very interesting because you have a hero who is made by the villains, who was supposed to be a villain and isn't, because really Dr. Mirokata is the one who saved him, because if he didn't try to really escape there, yeah, he probably would have ended up being a member of the Shocker organization and what have you. So I do find that aspect interesting. I know some folks may be like, okay, well, instead of being a complete good guy by being contacted, let's say M78, and being turned into this good guy, it's just an alteration. He
Mhm.
was a bad guy that became good, so to speak. And it's just like, no, but it's something different, because I think those are more interesting, because um, when you have a good organization coming to recruit someone to be a good guy, that's very cut and dry, and it tends to be pretty dull. Whereas if you have someone who was intended or was a villain ending up becoming a hero, there's more interest there because there's more conflict. And that's why I think so many of us are attached to villains in these superhero type stories, whether it's comics, movies, shows, etc., because the villains are more complex, more conflicted than the good guys. The good guys, even in modern times, even though, let's say, movies like the Batman, I do think tend to do a better job of trying to create more complex heroes, which is really how life works. Each and every single one of us is a complex individual with unique histories and experience that make us who we are. It's usually when it's written in fiction, and what better example than the golden age of comics in the 1950s, when you had the comic book code in place here in the United States, in which comic books really had no violence and that sort of thing going on. Usually heroes and villains were kind of cut and dry, but even then, villains were still a bit more interesting than the heroes, because, as someone who is obviously going to side with the heroes, you're kind of wondering, okay, Two Face, why are you pulling this thing off? Like, that doesn't make sense. Like, I kind of get why, but at the same time, I don't. And here, when you have a hero coming out of an evil organization, even though he wasn't bad to begin with, but was going to be, it makes it interesting. And yeah, it's not as interesting as, say, oh, I don't know. I can't think of something off the top of my head where you had someone who was a villain and then became a hero. I'm sure if given more time, I could think of something. But you
I
get
know
my point.
I know for one example, if you're into anime, for example, Dragon Ball, you had Vegeta as one of them, and then he was at first a villain, but then later on he turns into a hero, so to speak. So yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, for me the in, the origin of Kamen Rider, how he came to be, it's pretty interesting in a way, and then like as far how things transpired, I think one of the things I had on the top of my head, um, yeah, as far as once they're kind of modified as a cyborg under Shocker, that they're basically under their control, mind control. And one of the Shocker crew, or the scientists there, that he mentioned that he was unconscious for a week and that they were modifying his body to become a cyborg during that time, is that you had plenty of time to make his brain, be under their control. I'm not sure why that they didn't do that process when he became conscious.
It's what I call the Goldfinger effect, in which you become so egotistical and so arrogant in your abilities that you just go ahead, take your sweet time, and you spill the beans to the hero. And as a result, the hero's like, aha, like I know what I need to do now. So yeah, I mean, I thought of that too. I didn't bring it up because I thought it would be obvious, but yeah, I mean, they were dopes. I mean, let's just face it, they were dopes. They had a whole week. What I would have done initially if I were Shocker, I would brainwash him first and then do the actual procedure. But then
Hmm.
again, I don't know if anyone's disturbed that maybe I'm some sort of master criminal or whatever, but like, like to me, it's obvious as far as the avenue to take. You brainwash the people first rather than like, okay, let's cut off this arm, this leg, let's take out your guts here, put in a computer. The brainwash, yeah, that can wait, but
But yeah, overall, as far as the first episode of Kamen Rider, I think it's pretty good. There are some instances where some a little bit inconsistencies with the story, everything, but other than that, it's a good setup for what's going to become an entire franchise, or a universe, so to speak. So with episode 1, the eerie Spider-Man, or the mysterious Spider-Man, for me, I would give this a 8 out of 10.
what letter grade would that be for you?
Um, I probably, are we gonna do plus minus, that sort of
Yeah, we're
thing
doing
too?
plus minus. That's how I'm doing it.
I probably would give it an A minus.
All right. So, all right, here are my final thoughts. And again, I'm reading. The first episode of Kamen Rider, like most first episodes, helps to set the stage for our hero's story and his or her remaining conflict. I find it interesting that an evil organization is responsible for Takeshi Hongo's being the cyborg Kamen Rider. What still has me baffled, though, is we're told by one of the doctors who operated on him that once a person has been turned, they are under the spell of the Shocker organization. Yet Hongo doesn't appear to be under that control. Jason and I already talked about this, and I write these reviews as I watch the episode, so bear with me on some of these comments here. Was there supposed to be some transmitter planted into Hongo, and since he escaped, it was never placed inside of him? We're never given an answer in the episode, and I'm hoping that eventually we will be given one. We were. Okay, once again, please bear with me. I'm also confused as to how the Spider-Man died in the episode. It comes off as him just having taken one too many blows and disintegrating. I know that I know what I'm about to say next is probably overthinking on my part, but Hongo ends up becoming skilled in the martial arts after becoming Kamen Rider. Was Hongo always a skilled, or did he become, or did his becoming a cyborg assist him in this feat? Again, no answer is given, and I understand that I'm very likely overthinking this, but I believe in order to try and be as objective to the listeners as much as possible, asking and critiquing such things is impertinent in order to have an honest conversation to some extent about the material we cover on this podcast. See, I move it, now I lose my spot, and I didn't move it that much. Okay, with that said, as a whole, Kamen Rider is incredibly fun. It is so far able to do what Ultra 7 by and large refused to do, accept its absurdity and to simply have fun with the material. To not try make something a serious melodrama when everything surrounding your story is outlandish. This is what I was hoping to get from Kamen Rider, and thus far it is what I am getting. Oh crap, why did it do that? I didn't write that. Even if there are a bunch of questions left unanswered as we progress and eventually end the series, if it's able to maintain this level of fun, I am more than willing to let those unanswered questions go by the wayside. right now I am having fun and I'm fairly impressed with Kamen Rider. I too gave it an A minus.
Well, the one thing is that your audio is starting to break up.
Well,
Like
and
you're
that's the
reading
thing.
your
Like your audio
whole.
has been very faint too. So
Well, that's not much I can really do about because my stupid audio scrubber it just keeps readjusting itself. So I'm gonna have to do something afterwards. But
I'm
yeah,
wondering.
as soon as you're starting to do that review, it's starting to break up. But
I'm
at least we know
wondering.
that you gave it an A minus. So
Well, this pisses me off because we keep doing tests and things work out in the tests, and then we actually get to the production and everything decides to crap the bed. And like my internet signal is a bit better than it was before we started. Do we have a moment to where maybe I can experiment with something?
um, I'm not entirely sure. I can at least just kind of turn you off from the
You know
screen for
what?
the
Let's just
time
keep
being.
going. Let's just keep going because we're already on. Let's keep going. And then when we're off air, let's try something here because I got an idea of something that might work, but I'm not sure. All right. By the
But
way, I need to take a
anyways,
restroom
let's
break
move
anyways. I've been
on.
drinking a lot of water here. So if you want to ring us in about
So,
the next one.
all right. Well, I'm just gonna kind of wait to do the next one until you come back here. So, with Kent taking a little bit of a bathroom break, I just thought I would reiterate to all of you that if you want to find us on online, you can find us everywhere in one place at our own link tree page. You can see the URL right there, and as well as you can find us on video platforms as far as YouTube, Twitch, and Rumble, as well as the audio platforms listed right on your screen there, as far as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, as well as Tune In. And if you haven't subscribed to us yet, or hit the like button as well as the notification bell icons, make sure to do that so you can uh, make sure to know whenever we go live and everything, both on YouTube as well as over on Twitch. And as far as any archived video and as well as audio versions of our podcast, you can find us over at our own website at daikaijunetwork.com. So I'm just going to kind of leave this overlay up a bit, and Kent is just finally returning here. So bring this back up right now.
All right. So you want to ring us in on the next episode?
Yeah, so the name of the next episode here is The Terrifying Batman. So basically, all it is that uh, the show starts out with two women kind of walking home from a night out, and then one of the women leaves, and then the other woman is getting back to her apartment and then hearing strange noises and everything. She runs into her apartment and then gets caught by uh, Batman, and then gets bitten by Batman, and then uh, which injects this sort of virus into her, which causes like some sort of
You
control
turn into a bat person, more or less.
over their bodies and everything. So um, that's basically sort of the gist of Batman. And then Hongo goes to investigate, and then beats all the henchmen, and then Batman, and then basically Batman's both like holds like this virus as well as the antidote in his body, where the antidote where he just scratches like the person's like skin or something like that, and then brings them back to normal. So
Yeah, so one of the things I want to say right off the bat, no pun intended, um, is at the beginning of the episode after Hongo does a motorcycle trial run, the initial guy that we see at the top of the episode, um, who gets turned by Batman again. Not Michael Keaton, not Adam West, not Val Kilmer, George Clooney, Christian Bale, or anything like that. Um, she goes after Hongo, and there's this kind of funny, like 45-second deal where she's like, like going after him. I thought that was incredibly amusing. I thought, arguably one, if not the best moment of the entire episode.
and then the bat teeth, they're kind of like these
Yes,
kind of the
they're like
fang
tusks
looking things.
almost.
Yeah, but they're instead of just coming out the normal way, they're just jagging out like forward and everything.
You want a question here? You want to know how cheap your TV show is?
Very cheap.
You look at your bat fangs, and if they're sticking out on the side rather than up and down, you got yourself a cheap TV show. Cheap.
Wow.
I mean, look, here's the thing. Like I said when we were discussing the first episode here, we're getting ourselves into territory in which like special effects and all that aren't quite as good as Ultra 7. Um, at the same time, during the 1970s, when movie theaters and all that were having trouble staying open, and as a result, movie studios were cutting budgets, especially on special effects films itself. Not to mention the Japanese porn industry really became more prominent during this time because they were cheap and quick bucks. I wonder why. The TV industry was kind of going through something a little similar to this as well. So, yeah, cheap stuff. But you know what? In
Definitely
some
cheap.
cases, like Kamen Rider, it's fun, especially if the series and the writers and all that involved embrace what it is that they have in front of them. But yeah, I mean, let's just get into something else that I thought, and I'm not kidding when I say this. Towards the end of the episode, there was this moment where, as I was sitting down watching, I was like, oh shit. And that was when all of a sudden there's this blood spattering.
Oh yeah.
And it ends up happening several more times. I'm like, holy shit, they actually put that in a kid's show. There is like 5 or so moments where there are these big blood spatters where
It,
Kamen Rider's fighting Batman henchmen, and he's throwing them off and they're spattering, and then even at the end Batman himself gets splattered.
well, not only that, they'll show the physical, um, kind of the fake blood, and then once Batman gets knocked off the building, it's just more or less kind of that matte screen animated
Yeah.
sort of blood, which
But
I don't
still,
know.
you
It's
get the
it's a
point.
bit inconsistent in that part.
Yeah, I mean, you get the point, though. I mean,
Right. Yeah.
that's what they're trying to get across. Um, but yeah, like, look, I'm just gonna go into my final thoughts on this because I think it's gonna be a little bit more telling as to what I think about this. Something that I'm enjoying about Kamen Rider is there's an element of horror to every episode. Lighting choices and shadows play an intricate part in enveloping terror and mystery into the stories. With episode 2, we do get the explanation that Hongo's mind wasn't altered, excuse me, during his initial transformation. Hence, he isn't under the control of Shocker like many of the others, as the episodes put it, demons. However, I'm hoping that every episode doesn't give us who Shocker is each and every time. That explanation was given in the previous episode, and if someone coming in is confused as to who they are, they should go back and watch that first episode. I'm enjoying the fact that all of Shocker's demons thus far are modeled after creatures that most people find creepy in the real world: spiders, bats, and for the next episode, scorpions. I find it amusing that the villain in the episode is called Batman. I like, too, that we see there is some unseen leader of Shocker directing the organization from an unknown location. The immense spattering of blood at the end of the episode is wackadoo, crazy, yet pun intended batshit fun. The use of the apartment complex to create an army of bad people was clever and fun, but a mild complaint of mine is that it would have been nice to see a different location or two for the Batman to create more minions. Nevertheless, another fun episode. I gave it an A.
Yeah, as far as this episode, I really like it. It kind of gives a little bit more of that nostalgic feeling of your typical Showa tokusatsu TV show or movie during this time period. And I really like the cheesy costume of Batman
Yeah,
in a way,
costumes in
as
general
well
are great.
as and the ridiculous quote unquote feigns that's on both Batman and then as well as some of the people that were infected by this virus from Batman, and we also kind of get that full circle closing, or I would say that as a Ruiko finally knows the truth behind her father's death, and then revealed by Batman that Shocker killed her father from the first episode in that regard. So now she comes to terms with Hongo and everything. So all of that's finalized, and yeah, it's sort of a good episode. I would also give this one an A- too.
All right, so the third and final episode we're covering during this podcast episode is called Monster Scorpion Man. So I kept thinking, get over here. I don't know why.
Or the monstrous
so
Scorpion Man.
But I would say, out of the three costumes thus far, this might be my favorite. There's something to the mandible claws and this weird.
That's
I don't know
sort of
what
what
you
I
would
like
call it.
is that kind of that the mouth part of a Scorpion Man.
Yeah.
If I let me bring up a picture of a Scorpion Man. If
By
there's
the way, one thing I want to bring up here is the fact that throughout the entire episode, they keep talking about man-eating scorpions. Let's get one thing straight. If you call something a man-eater, then it actually needs to eat people. Okay? The scorpions in this episode don't eat people. They are modified to spray a red-like substance that ends up dissolving people. They don't eat anybody in this episode. So, for people who are looking to write scripts, novellas, novels, whatever, if you're going to call something a man-eater, then it better eat people. You just don't call it a man-eater simply because it kills people. It's got to eat people if you call it a man-eater.
See, there's Scorpion Man right there.
Yeah, do you have something that's more of a close-up of its head?
Yeah, I don't think this is
What about
the
that one?
exact
Oh,
one,
yeah, that's not the exact one.
but yeah,
Uh-oh.
that can't be reached anyways. But I mean, you can kind of get the idea of the mouth, how it is compared to like this one here. So
Yeah. It is very interesting because the Scorpion Man comes off, which, by the way, is turned from one of Hongo's closest friend, Ayase.
well, you don't even know that yet until the middle or towards
Yeah,
the end
and
of
what
the
I think
episode.
is really good, and we saw this with the last episode, is that some of these demons of Shocker can turn into human form for a while as well. I don't know if Batman's was one
Well,
where he changes into a bat at night and then is a human by day. If that was just part of his,
I don't think so, because I think as far as Batman goes, he's like some kind of hypnosis state or something, the like being charged up or something of the case. But this was the first episode that we know that these demons that the Shocker made, at least this one can turn to a human and then back.
Yeah, and the episode where they talk about using graphing technology from Nazis. It's just like, oh shit, like we're getting serious here. We're actually talking about real people who were assholes. Um, so like yeah, one of the things too I like about Scorpion Man here is that it's not a pure humanoid necessarily. It, I mean, it's still relatively close. But what I like is that, for example, he has one hand that is an actual hand, and then his other hand is like a scorpion claw of sorts. I do like that. I know it's a minor touch, but certain things like that, I think, not only make some of these characters memorable, it just makes them more unique instead of each of them having, let's say, their head modified and maybe parts of their body, and then the rest, like they always have five-fingered hands. You know,
Mhm.
when you start changing things up, like I don't know, you have some sort of crab man where maybe one of his legs is like a crab leg or something. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up off the top of my head to try to make a point here, but like, when you start doing things like that, it makes things unique and interesting. And I like that. And the Scorpion Man, not only does he look badass, he acts badass because he's like, look, I will kill. In fact, uh, kind of like Mori Kawa in the first episode, we get a doctor here, not a doctor, a
Well,
civilian
it's
who
well, it's a
is,
prisoner who was actually released along with other prisoners at the beginning
yes,
of this episode, and the leader gives them at least 10 more minutes to run through this desert to seek shelter, and they wouldn't be harmed at that time. But and that did I say 10 minutes? Yeah, I
it's
think I
10
did.
minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, and then once 10 minutes came around, he unleashes these man-eating scorpions,
That
which
annoys the hell out of me.
they really aren't man-eating, simply because all they do is just spray this sort of red liquid from their tail, and just sort of like
Fizzles.
Spider-Man from the very first episode, where it just melts the entire body and just liquefies them.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, they're not afraid in these shows to go about killing civilians. I mean, we saw it in the first episode and we're seeing it here again. I really thought this individual was going to survive. And then when
That's
I
what I thought too.
realized
Yeah.
there was a scorpion at one point, I'm like, oh, snap, he ain't going to make it. And
Well, and
yeah, he
then
didn't make it.
the other thing too is that when Scorpion Man uh, gets close to the hideout of Hongo and the old man there, and then I think I think a scene or two later, you see Hayase, which is Hongo's friend, along with Ruriko. I had, I think, sort of an odd suspicion that Hayase was going to be Scorpion Man, which ended up turning to be him being Scorpion Man, which it was sort of given at that moment when Hayase comes into play.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. Like, typically when I watch movies and shows, sometimes I can catch certain things, and usually if I do that, I either just am in a higher state of alertness, or sometimes certain movies or shows get so clumsy that they telegraph very easily what it is that they're going to do. I didn't even see that coming, and I should have. So,
You should have.
you know what? I don't care because I'm having fun with this series. So yeah. But yeah, do we want to get into final thoughts and ratings here on episode 3?
Yeah. As far as final thoughts for me, this one, I'd say out of the 3 episodes that we've gone through for today, I think number 3 is probably the best one uh, so far. I really liked how it was set up. What do you want?
I just want to give a quick mention here. You talk about being the best so far. I just want to say I think I do agree with you on that because we're starting to see certain effects and stuff being implemented that we haven't seen in the first episode, like Kamen Rider zooming along. I don't know if this is going to continue throughout the series, but it could be the start of something. So yeah, it's like the show already is starting to catch its footing as
Mhm.
far as what it wants to do.
Yeah, and speaking of the show catching its footing. I liked how they, I think, at the beginning where Tachibana and Hongo finally studying Hongo's strength when he turns into Kamen Rider and trying to study the movements and kind of the source of his power in a way. I liked how they did that in a way in this third episode, and as well as obviously with us talking about Scorpion Man, I really like uh, the costume that they did for Scorpion Man and having it be Hongo's friend in a way, which kind of makes things a little bit more interesting. And just, I think the third episode finally, I'd say, lays sort of a more uh, foundation compared to the first episode, where it kind of where we kind of get to know the background of Kamen Rider in a way.
I think too. I think maybe what you're trying to say too is we're getting more of kind of the establishment of certain idiosyncrasies with not just the character but the series itself.
Yeah.
Like for example, let's say like you're talking the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. You're talking about the sequence of all the Zords coming together to create the Megazord or something like that. You're getting stuff like that to help illustrate progressions in stories and to illustrate other facets of the plot and story itself. So,
Right.
my final thoughts on Monster
Well,
Scorpion Man.
before you do that, I want to give my rating, which I
Oh,
haven't done that quite yet. As far as the rating for the monstrous Scorpion Man, I'll give this one an A.
you and I are like 3 for 3, and I don't think that's happened even back during Ultra 7. Ultra 7, I think we came close on several occasions, but not exactly like this. So, here are my final thoughts on episode 3. One thing I failed to mention at this point are the wacky camera angles and the unique face paint designs on the Shocker Demon's henchmen each episode. That's something we did not discuss. But yeah, each episode where we get a different general, the face paint of the henchman is always a different color and design. I like that touch. Um, the camera angles will sometimes become really contorted and weird, but add a sense of fun and craziness to a show that knows exactly what it is. The face paint designs and coloring of the henchmen in each episode displays the uniqueness and creativity of the personnel involved with the series. They clearly show they want to make each villain its own and did not have some generic design throughout. While generic design isn't necessarily bad, to have a different design that at its core is similar, but at the same time different, each episode adds a level of artistry to a show that is artful in its own way, even if at the same time it's absurd. The Scorpion Man design just may be one of my favorite villain designs so far. It's menacing and different in a way that he has one hand that is a normal one and another that is a scorpion's claw. His scorpion minions shoot some red acidic liquid that dissolves their victims. Only real complaint I have is everyone keeps calling the scorpions man-eaters when they don't actually eat a single person. It's annoying at best. Otherwise, a fun episode in a series that's really winning me over fast, and I also gave it an A rating. So with that, I just want to say something before we start closing out here. I severely apologize to everyone as far as audio quality here of this episode. Jason and I have been sending private messages back and forth over the course of this recording. We are both very pissed off at what is going on here. We don't know exactly what's happening because
Well,
when we test
it seems like on your it seems like on your and your audio starts to break up, it's whenever you do your final thoughts is when it starts breaking up.
well, and see, you were just talking, and I could barely make out everything you just said there. So something's going on. But my point is that when we test this stuff out, we always do a test before we start each and every episode. Everything checks out fine. And we've had to do this a few times in the past where if something doesn't check out, usually one of us restarts or reconnects or both restart, whatever. Like, we do whatever is necessary to try to fix it. And for whatever reason, this episode, and I think even the last episode when we're actually live, shit hits the fan. And I don't know why. We're both annoyed at it. We sincerely apologize for this. I don't know if it's the software that's causing issues. I don't know, but when we get off here in just a moment, we definitely are looking to see if we can figure out some solutions to try to fix this problem. So I apologize for audio issues and all that, and hopefully we can get something figured out here. But 2 weeks from now, we will be covering the first 3 episodes of Spectre Man. Hopefully, all of that will be better than what we had here in terms of audio quality. And
Yeah, I hope so.
so we will be changing things out every couple of weeks. So 2 weeks from now, it's the first 3 episodes of Spectre Man. 2 weeks after that, it's the next 3 episodes of Kamen Rider. And like I said, we're going to keep doing that for a while. We'll have a break here and there. So yeah. So again, sincerely apologize for audio quality. Hopefully we can fix it. Thank you so much though for listening and or watching, and we will see you here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and just to reiterate one more time, you can find Daikaiju Network everywhere in one place at our own Linktree page with the URL right there, and you can follow us on these both video and audio platforms as well. And if you haven't subscribed to us yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to hit that like button as well as push that notification bell icon to get the latest or when we go live or anything. And if you want to find us at our own website with the archived video, audio, as well as blogs, etc., you can find us at our own website at daikaijunetwork.com. So if you don't have anything else, we'll just sign off right now.
I got one more thing, and that is technology sucks.
Well, I know with my audio, it's basically this Realtek audio that keeps, with this volume scrubber, it keeps readjusting itself every time. But I think I found some kind of fix tutorial on YouTube here, which I'm probably going to have to check that
Well,
out.
like I said, when we get off here in a moment, we got to figure this shit out because I'm pissed. I demand nothing but the best.
Well, I know one of these times I want to get me a different microphone and stuff, because I think this one that I have right here is probably sort of the cause to it, because, with the audio coming out from the headset and then the speaker
Yeah, it's up here.
right here. So, yeah, that's for Kent. So, but with that, thanks for watching Daikaiju Network Show, and we'll see you guys in a couple weeks.